It's Gary Sims here from Android Authority. We're at the Qualcomm booth here at Mobile World Congress. I've come to speak to Sharif Hanna about 4G LTE, the latest improvements, and 5G. Sharif, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you for coming by.
Now, I know that Qualcomm have got some 4G LTE announcements. Do you want to tell me a bit about that?
Sure, yeah, we're very excited because two of our customers, Sony as well as ZTE, announced the first phones that have Gigabit LTE capabilities, so up to 1 gigabit per second over 4G LTE, which is absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
We announced the modem last year, but now we integrated it into Snapdragon 835, and now it's in phones, so it's very exciting that it's coming to the smartphone form factor.
Those of us are old enough remember telephone modems, 33K, and now we're talking 1 gigabit. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, to see it working in a smartphone, getting up to 1 gigabit per second speed is absolutely astonishing. But I think the important thing to remember is it's not so much about the peak speeds, and that's one of the things that we need to get across very carefully, that yes, we can show up to 1 gigabit per second ideal lab conditions, but actually the more substantial improvement is in the average data rates that people experience on a day-to-day basis in the network once the networks are actually deployed.
Well, absolutely. I mean, peak is one thing, but if my movie starts downloading really quick at the beginning and then dives, that doesn't help me. So these new things have got sustained performance.
Correct. So there's actually kind of a byproduct of the technologies that we're using to get to Gigabit LTE. For example, the use of 4x4 MIMO technology, which means that we actually put 4 antennas inside the phone and the phone can receive on the 4 antennas simultaneously. Right. So one of the side effects of that, for example, is now the phone essentially has additional ears that it can listen to the tower with when you're far away from the tower.
Okay.
So it will actually give you faster speed even when you're far away, in addition to giving you insanely fast speeds when you're close. Okay. So again, it's not just, like I said, it's not just about the peak rates, but actually the average user experience gets a lot better with a Gigabit LTE phone than it would otherwise.
Now, earlier on I said to you that 5G hasn't been turned into a standard, and I think people are talking about it too early, and you said, no, that's not true. So tell me about that.
So the actual final specification for 5G, which is by the way called 5G NR, 5G New Radio. Okay. So that's going to be the global standard for 5G. So the specification is not finalized yet. However, the work in the organization that makes the standard proceeds in phases. And in the current phase that we're in, a lot of decisions have already been made about what the new radio interface looks like. For example, the way it can scale to accommodate insanely high bandwidths, but also have capacity for hundreds of thousands of IoT devices, or give the ability for autonomous cars to communicate to each other with very low latency to avoid an impending crash. So a lot of those decisions for the interface have already been done. Okay. And we're demonstrating it in the booth today, which actually makes that demo quite a bit different than a lot of the other 5G demos that are at the show.
So 5G isn't just about speed. 4G LTE could grow quite significantly, but 5G, you've got, as you said, IoT devices, local devices, cars, other things talking to each other, low latency, and that's going to be the real game changer, I think, for 5G. What do you think?
I agree 100%. And by the way, even from a mobile broadband perspective, so even with the faster speeds come also much lower latency. Okay. So on LTE networks today, you're looking at a network latency of between 20 to 30 milliseconds, let's say. In the demo over there, we're showing 1 millisecond latency with very, very high speed, hundreds of megabits a second. And so even that would be a game changer, for example, for something like foveated rendering of 360-degree video, where if you have a VR headset on and you're looking at a portion of video, the network can send you just the portion you're looking at in super high resolution, and as you turn your head, the network can respond quickly and send you the new field of view that you're looking at and give you high resolution there. That is not possible with 4G today, but it will be possible with 5G. So this is the new Xperia XZ Premium, which is the first smartphone with Snapdragon 835. And one of the unique things about it is that it integrates Gigabit LTE, so up to 1 gigabit per second download speeds over an LTE connection, which is absolutely astonishing. So not only do we have the unit on display, we actually have a real speed test. These are the speeds that are actually coming from the device right now, so up to 979 megabits per second. But of course, this is the peak rate. It's the only device that's connected to the tower that we have in the background. The question that we always get is, what are the real world speeds that I can expect from these network improvements and device improvements? And so we have this simulation that we ran. Basically, it's simulating about 8,000 users in a Gigabit LTE network, and the users have devices of different LTE capability, from Category 4, which is kind of the lowest, most basic LTE capability, all the way up to Cat 16, which is Gigabit LTE. And so what I can do is I can go into comparison mode and see how the expected real world speeds that devices of different capabilities will get. So I'll select one of the cell sectors. Let's say for FTP traffic type. So imagine you're downloading a file from cloud storage, for example. Let's look at the 50th percentile user, the average user or median user. And then let's compare Cat 6, which is kind of the current most common LTE capability in phones and networks, versus Cat 16, the new stuff. Okay, so here we see that the average speeds for the Cat 16 user is 93 megabits per second compared to 50 megabits per second for a Cat 6 user. So again, not gigabit speed, but this is again simulating a real network with real conditions, and this is on average. And what the other graphs are showing here is also the fact that the Cat 16 devices use the network more efficiently, so we can cram more users in the network. And there's another way to show this, which is if I change the mix of devices in the network so that more of the users in the network have Gigabit LTE devices, watch what happens to the throughputs as I change the mix of the devices in the network. So the speeds actually went up for both users, for the Cat 6 user as well as the Cat 16 user. And the reason for this is when you have a higher percentage of Gigabit LTE devices, they use the network much more efficiently, which opens up the capacity of the network so that even users who don't have capable devices get faster speeds as well. So this is for the median user, but I also wanted to illustrate kind of the best case users, what kind of speeds they can get. So let me go here and select the 90th percentile users. And look at that, over 200 megabits per second, in a real network. This is the kind of performance that we expect once the networks start rolling out in the US, in Europe, in Asia, starting in 2017. It's very exciting.
Tell me a bit about roadmaps. I know nothing's set in concrete, but we're now in 2017. What's the kind of plan that people have got for the standard, for hardware, for networks?
Yep.
What's the plan?
So actually that's a great question, and it comes at the perfect timing because just yesterday, Qualcomm, along with 21 other leaders in the mobile industry, committed publicly to accelerating the 5G NR global standard and pulling in the date so we can see the first 5G mobile devices and networks in 2019 instead of 2020. So we pulled in the schedule by quite a bit, pulling it into 2019. And also Qualcomm, we announced our first 5G new radio modem. So supporting the global standard for 5G, it does 2G, 3G, 4G, and 5G all in a single chip.
Wow.
And so that, you can expect it's part of the X50 family of modems from Qualcomm. So you can expect mobile devices with those new modems in time for 2019. So the first 5G smartphones will be available in 2019. Very, very exciting.
Well, these are exciting times in terms of 5G, in terms of mobile communication. I wish you all the best. This is Gary Sims from Android Authority speaking to Sharif at the Qualcomm booth. Stay tuned. We've got more news and reviews from MWC 2017. Thank you, Sharif.
Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it, Gary.